3 Days of the Condor was based on a book called 6 Days of the Condor. How many days of the Condor are we?
You're like 4 off now, though, because now you're 10 Days of the Condor, technically, with your 10 hours for your first season.
It's a deeper Condor.
This is a TV series that's inspired by 3 Days of the Condor, which was the classic 70s Sidney Pollack movie with Robert Redford. Let's talk a little bit about
Guess which one of us is Robert Redford?
It was a 70s film, yet all of this feels extraordinarily timely and to the moment. Does it feel more important to be doing something like this so that it is, kind of putting out in the world some thoughtful things to be thinking about with the technology and the politics and everything that's going on around us?
Well, the extraordinary times that we live in where everything seemed like sci-fi so few years ago are definitely around the time that 3 Days of the Condor was all the rage in the 70s. Everything seems so much more personal and accessible. So a story like this takes a look behind trying to keep everything under wraps on the down low and the machinations behind what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So that's a real hook to draw a viewer in.
And a lot of the show, you might think it was fake news because we can't tell amongst ourselves necessarily who is telling the truth. It's a bit of a shell game all the time, which I think is really fascinating. And interestingly enough, for something that's totally contemporary, this takes place in 2019 or 20 perhaps, I don't know, or just right now. There are, as far as I can see, tell me if I'm wrong, no current references. Donald Trump doesn't live in the movie,
Yeah.
right?
No.
We never talk about him.
Yeah.
So, no.
No, in the
Which
pilot
is-
I didn't see
which
that
I
at
think is
all. There's not
critical.
even a time marker, which
It's
is
not
really
about
great.
the president.
No.
It's about the inner workings of intelligence agencies, but it really also just points to individual actions and individual culpability, and that blindly trusting in one institution or another is a mistake, because anyone who has a really strong-willed agenda may start doing things that are absolutely unexpected and highly illegal, but to further what they think is an important patriotic gain.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of patriotism in this movie and a lot of selfishness and a lot of other agendas going on. But it's very timely, very, very timely.
Consider that in 3 Days of the Condor, the caveat was, we're going to take this and it's going to be published by the New York Times, and then you'll get yours. If I remember the film correctly.
Yes.
I mean, that was
That was it.
the big takedown. Now, compare that to where we live today,
Right.
when it's a button away to reveal anything about anyone anytime.
Yeah.
And that challenge has been addressed directly in how we've made this show, so that you get the opportunity to not have it just all given away all at once.
Yeah. Let's talk about why you were interested in kind of taking this classic film and being part of an extended tale, the television version of that.
Marty Frost is my character. She's an ex-high-level CIA operative who's been called in to run a task force that is looking for Joe Turner, Max Irons.
Hello.
Nouveau Robert Redford.
Yes.
We found it.
Robert Redford point two. And she is firmly convinced of his guilt, that he has actually come in and assassinated a whole group of his co-workers, and she's trying to find him. She has an interesting, stormy, steamy past with Bob Partridge, who is his uncle, played by William Hurt. They're kind of clashing heads the whole length of the season, but she's surprisingly vulnerable and has some tricks up her sleeve.
I play Nathan Fowler. He's one of the teeth in the cog of the military-industrial regime, and has a nefarious plan to put in place that I think could cause some big damage in the world if he's successful. Personally, I'm not a fan of this sort of individual, and a very good reason to take on playing Nathan Fowler, because I wanted the challenge.
Yeah.
Let me say, it's an exciting, breathless take on the material, a whodunit to find out if we can get to this guy, if he can stay ahead of everyone else, and this guy is Max.
And yes, Max, so tell
Hi.
me about that.
I play Joe Turner, who's a young analyst for a satellite organization to the CIA. And he writes an algorithm in order to try and find foreign terror suspects abroad. He finds that that algorithm is being used in a way he doesn't support, and unearths a plot buried within the CIA, which suddenly finds that he's on the run and being pursued by an enemy he can't see, he can't comprehend, or...
And certainly timely, that's for sure.
Well, indeed, yeah.
And Bob?
Well, my character is named Rule Abbott. Thank God I remembered his name. I had some trouble remembering it, actually. And he's a CIA big guy. And I sort of liken him to Mr. Mxyzptlk from the Superman series, but I just made that up. It's not
That
really
works for me.
And he's very religious and will do anything to get what he needs and what he thinks he wants. I would say he thinks he's very principled, but you wouldn't think so.
So lastly, I'm going to ask you, because we're sci-fi and it's a fan thing, what was your first kind of geeky love? What was your thing that you got passionate about and that you have either carried through in life or that was one of your starter passions?
You know what I'm going to say. I've been on the record before. Original Star Trek.
Yes.
I have the dolls. I have the phaser. I've got the little toy set which has like the transporter that turns around.
Yes, my cousin had that. My cousin, I wasn't allowed to touch
I've been
it.
to conventions as a teenager. I have met most of the original cast, while many of them have passed on now, sadly. I'm the biggest geek for Star Trek ever. So, so that I watched it with my dad when I was a kid. Yes, my dad actually was given a test by Leonard Nimoy to see if he was a real fan, and he said, "What was the name of the grain in the Trouble with Tribbles?" And my dad yells, "Quadrotriticale!" Like, okay, all right, you guys are
Yes,
fine.
all right, Paul.
Yeah, so that's my thing, and if I could ever hint be in any future iterations
There
of the
happens
Star
to
Trek
be
world.
one, so exactly. Let's get to Discovery. Let's listen. And
Oh, you're going to me
Yeah, I'm
now?
going to go to Brennan.
I think the best I got is Looney Tunes.
That's great. That's all right. That's totally great.
I was there at
You were
7
there.
o'clock
You
in the
looked at-
morning when it was on for an hour. And I saw religiously every episode. I think it probably taught me everything I never needed to know about acting.
It's the best lessons ever. Daffy and Bugs. Exactly.
I know how to set up a joke.
I don't think it really qualifies as science fiction. But submarines, oddly enough.
Yeah, really?
I had a real obsession. I still sort of do with submarines.
Oh, that's cool.
Mechanically, but also during the Cold War, I think what they were up to under the oceans it
Yeah.
was sort of terrifying and unnerving and mysterious and
Nice.
As you say that now, I'm really concerned.
It's good for a spy show, though.
well, yeah.
Well, my sci-fi one was Forbidden Planet. One of the things which was very helpful, the robot in Forbidden Planet was Robbie the robot.
Yeah.
Robbie.
And that was, my name is Bob, and when I was little, I was called Robbie by my family, so I got a Robbie the robot present. If I had saved the box that it was in along with the thing, it would be worth $80 million.
Yeah, you could be retired right
I
now.
wouldn't even be here right now.
Well, thank you so much, guys, and we're excited for your
Thank
show.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.